In this video today, Governor Gavin Newsom launches a podcast, and Zelensky will be visiting the White House on Friday to sign the rare earth minerals agreement, which deals another loss to the media because they claim President Trump didn't know what he was doing. Now, let's first see the promotional ad from Newsom's new podcast.
We need to change the conversation, and that's why I'm launching a new podcast. And this is going to be anything but the ordinary politician podcast. I'm going to be talking to people directly that I disagree with, as well as people I look up to. But more important than anything else, I'll be talking directly with you, the listener. Real conversations. What's going on with the cost of eggs? What are the impacts, real impacts to you around tariffs? What power does an executive order really have? And what's really going on inside of Doge? Look, there's an onslaught of information that we take in. So let's take it to the sources without the typical political mumbo jumbo. In the first few weeks, we're going to be sitting down with some of the biggest leaders and architects in the MAGA movement. This is Gavin Newsom.
Number one, I find this to be very out of touch because instead of creating a podcast where you're just trying to push more talking points to fight against President Trump and Doge, why don't you create a podcast talking about how you're going to improve California? How you're going to leave it better off than you found it for the next governor who comes. How maybe you can tell the stories of the families who have been impacted by fires throughout this entire state. What about that? And some of the reactions he's getting from social media is entertaining. The Babylon Bee put this: Gavin Newsom launches a true crime podcast about how he killed California. Also, this post is from Leftism. They say this: why don't you talk about why you only cared about dealing with the insane amount of homeless people in LA when Xi Jinping came to visit? Really, I think he meant San Francisco. Or how about why you threw a maskless party for yourself at the French Laundry while simultaneously having people under lockdown? What about your failure to provide proper water storage for Californians instead of finding them and shutting off their water as a result of your incompetence? These are all great questions. And again, the podcast isn't about that. The podcast is about fighting back against Trump. And then if you actually go to his social media account, his first clip from the podcast is about the Menendez brothers, which in Los Angeles, no one cares about right now. What they care about, are they going to be able to figure out their life moving forward? Where are they going to live? How is this going to be ultimately resolved? Again, I'm not mad that he made a podcast. Why is the podcast about talking to MAGA influencers? I don't get that. Right? That's where it gets out of touch. And again, this is a huge miss for him. Now, let's go to our next story here, which is a little bit of breaking news. Zelensky will be at the White House this Friday to finish signing the agreement. You know, that agreement that President Trump said that he was trying to get, even though the media continued to say that he didn't know what he was doing in regards to negotiating? Yeah, that agreement, which allows us to get our money back in some way, shape, or form. But that's not even really what I'm going to show you here. I'm going to show you what J.D. Vance had to say to the media in regards to President Trump.
I mean, look, as the president said, we're not going to do the negotiation in public with the American media. He's going to do it in private with the president of Russia, with the president of Ukraine, and with other leaders. And I think that's how this has to go. I just want to push back against some of the criticism I've seen of the administration on this, because every single time the president engages in diplomacy, you guys preemptively accuse him of conceding to Russia. He hasn't conceded anything to anyone. He's doing the job of a diplomat, and he is, of course, the diplomat in chief as the President of the United States.
Yeah, we need to play that message on repeat for the media every single day, because they get on the TV and they act like they know better than President Trump when it comes to negotiating with Putin or Zelensky. Like, he hasn't made deals his entire life, right? Like, they make better deals than he does. Like, they've made more money than he has. And to show you how they don't understand how to make deals and what President Trump is doing, because they ignore the results, of course, which has led to this agreement, obviously. Here is Jasmine Crockett saying that what President Trump is doing with Putin is going to get people killed.
Instead, we're pushing conspiracy theories, and some of them are killing people. It's the same thing that we have coming out of Doge. It's the reason that people are dying. It's the reason that farmers are losing their farms, because we continue to peddle conspiracy theories. It is time for us to say, Mr. President, guess what? Russia invaded Ukraine. Can we at least agree on that one? Facts matter. Y'all, this is literally potentially putting us into an international crisis. We may be heading towards the next world war because we have a president that wants to pal around with Putin and wants to do everything to make him feel good, including lying about who invaded who.
So if we remove the emotion out of this debate and we just sat down and said, hey, you know what? Why do you think President Trump is speaking the way that he is speaking? Because when you're dealing with someone who is looking to blow the place up and you are the negotiator, do you go in there and antagonize this person? Right? If that criminal has a gun to the hostage's head, are you going to go in there and piss off that person even more? Or are you going to kind of flatter him, get him a little relaxed, get him to let his guard down a bit? I mean, I think most people would probably agree with that type of strategy because historically it has worked every single time. And through results, it's already been proven that it works because before Trump, we know Putin was never interested in actually ending this war. He would just keep going if it was up to him. He would take over Ukraine, no question. But now that Trump is in office, he's open to making a deal. And that's exactly what President Trump said today.
The deals that you've done in your life, all the people you've sat across from and negotiated with, is President Putin distinct in any way?
He's a very smart guy. He's a very cunning person. But I've dealt with some people I've dealt with some really bad people. But I will tell you, as far as this is concerned, you have to understand, he had no intention, in my opinion, of settling this war. I think he wanted the whole thing. When I got elected, we spoke, and I think we're going to have a deal. I can't guarantee that. A deal is a deal. Lots of crazy things happen in deals, right? But I think we're going to have a deal. If I didn't get elected, I believe he would have just continued to go through Ukraine, and over a period of time, a lot of people would have been killed. Would have lasted for a period of time. And the reason that Ukraine, and I have great respect for the Ukraine as fighters, they have great fighters, but without our equipment, that war would have been over, like people said, in a very short period of time. And if you remember, I gave the javelins, and the javelins are the things that knocked out those tanks right at the beginning of the war. They said that Obama at the time gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. Well, I was the one that did that, but I want to see it come to an end.
Will he have to make concessions, President Putin?
Yeah, he will. He's going to have to. And I believe that because we got elected, that war will come to an end.
So it'll be interesting to see how the media reacts to all this and if they'll start reporting on the facts. So let's go over those facts really quickly about this entire situation. Number one, the deal focuses on rights for Ukraine's raw earth materials, which could total trillions of dollars, according to the 2024 World Economic Forum report. Also, Trump ruled out NATO membership for Ukraine, saying it was likely a cause of the conflict, while Zelensky hopes the deal will enhance relations and security ties with the U.S. Now, I'm on this website called ground.news. If you guys want to check this out for yourself, you just go to ground.news/Devori. If you watch my videos all the time, then you know we love using this website to produce the show. Why? Because it shows us what both sides are saying about these stories, what the left is saying and what the right is saying. Now, clearly the right is celebrating this, right? We want an end to the war. We want to stop wasting taxpayer money. And not only that, Trump got a little smart. He thought outside the box by getting this rare earth mineral agreement. Well, the people on the left, is there a deal to end Russia's war with Ukraine? ? Consider this from NPR. No, we don't want to consider anything from NPR. Again, you get to see like what one side is saying and what the other side is saying. I always want to show you guys both sides of the argument. You make up your mind on who you want to believe. Of course, I have a bias, I have an opinion. But again, I like to show you what both sides are saying. And this is why I love Ground News, and you will too. So subscribe through my link at ground.news/Devori or download the mobile app and use offer code Devori for 40% off the Vantage plan, which will give you unlimited access to everything that we just covered in this video. So while President Trump is actually delivering results for the American people, he's taking action, he's actually doing something and not sleeping most of the day like Joe Biden, what are Democrats continuing to do? Well, they're getting so emotionally out of control to the point where they're almost getting kicked out of their congressional hearings. Here's Congressman Frost out of Florida, who calls President Trump the grifter in chief because he is so triggered by the president. And of course, the And of course, the chairman, he wasn't having it.
People like the grifter-in-chief Trump and President Musk are openly using their public offices to enrich themselves to the tune of billions of dollars. So if we want to look at waste, fraud, and abuse, which I'm down to do, why is there complete silence on the other side of the aisle about looking at the complete grifter that is the President of the United States and the richest man on the earth, which is looking into things like Social Security and different things like that? Why don't we investigate the real corruption?
Hold off. Point of order.
I reclaim my time.
Point of order.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Hold off. There was a point of order when you said something. Who asked for it? Mr. Higgins, would you like to revise your remark with respect to improperly identifying the President of the United States?
I'll say President Musk and grifter-in-chief Trump.
All right.
I want to say it's despicable that this committee is going to silence me for bringing
The
up
gentleman's
Trump's
words have been
Mr.
taken
Frost,
down. He is not
Mr.
permitted to
Frost.
speak for the rest of the hearing.
making millions of dollars.
Mr. Ranking Member, I'm going to have the Sergeant at Arms remove him if he doesn't refrain.
So that's what our tax dollars fund, is idiots acting in that way. And again, they're not even talking about the fraud, the waste, the abuse. They're not talking about how deceased people have been receiving government funds. They're not talking about how the federal government is bloated. They're talking about how much they hate President Trump. And we know that is a losing strategy. And we're here to encourage them because we know that will work to our benefit. Now, here's what Jason Miller had to say about all of this.
Well, I think the Democrats have shown that they can play possum very well. In fact, I think they look like a possum that just got run over by an 18-wheeler on some back road Louisiana highway because they got crushed in the last election. President Trump received 77.3 million votes, 312 electoral votes, won the popular vote from Americans. And that's why he has this mandate for change. And so I think in many ways, in fairness to James, the Democrats right now are lost in the same way that Republicans were maybe in the early month or two right after former President Obama won back in early 2009. And Democrats at some point will figure out what direction they want to go. But right now, they're still woke as a joke. They're clueless. They don't know what they're doing. And as we saw when Shifty Schiff and others tried to protest the other day, and they could only turn out 4 or 5 people, there is no energy. We've heard about low energy in the past. Democrats have no energy, and it really shows.
Not only does it show, but it continues to encourage other members of the Democratic Party who are super progressive to become some of the leading voices of the party, which won't work to their best interests, of course, which won't help them win future elections. And of course, I'm going to show you a clip to support what I'm saying. Here is AOC, the same hearing, saying this about Elon Musk.
Doge did not exist 2 years ago. 19-year-olds were not raiding the Treasury 2 years ago. People who have no idea with medical background have not been hauling in and creating kangaroo courts for scientists to dismiss them 2 years ago. That started happening now. Elon Musk is not a scientist. He is not an engineer. He is a billionaire con man with a lot of money. He does not have this kind of good background. And in fact, while there's some disruption over that, I sincerely ask you all to examine what expertise he has in approving medical devices, in biomedical engineering devices. And if you all think that he is an expert in that, I've got a bridge to nowhere to sell you. These are people's lives that are on the line, and we cannot laugh them away. Genuinely, please, I am asking you to please support this amendment for the people who have medical devices stuck in their body. Thank you, and I yield back.
Yeah, someone needs to tell AOC that America's life is still on the line because of our wasteful spending that we're so addicted to that has led to $36 trillion of debt. But she's worrying about federal employees or people who are going to be impacted by these cuts. What they have to understand, these cuts are going to happen one way or another. I think Elon Musk, along with Doge, they're doing some transformative work that I think a decade from now, we're going to look back and say, you know what, there's a lot of good things that happened there because this is a long time coming. The government needs to change. They need to catch up when it comes to technology, when it comes to efficiency with the private sector. And people like AOC, that's the wrong person to be speaking on behalf of the Democrat Party. But again, We encourage that. So this leads me to the question of this video, because I know we talked about it a lot. What do you think about Zelensky agreeing to sign this rare earth mineral agreement with President Trump? Do you believe President Trump's negotiating skills are something that the media can't understand, they're not willing to understand, and can't handle? Let me know what your thoughts are about all that in the comments section below. It's not just the media who haven't learned anything. Of course, it's the Democrats. Because this morning, once again, they have been caught lying about Medicaid. Because last night, GOP passed the budget resolution, which allows them to set the framework for no tax on tips, overtime, Social Security, etc. But you know what they did this morning, Democrats? They came out and started lying about Medicaid. If you missed out on that video and more stories from earlier today, all you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.